Hey, Bookworms of Concord. It's April now, which means it's time to go through what I read in March, and I read 7 books. It's March was a long month; it was like 5 weeks, so that gave me opportunity to read a lot. So the first one I read in March was actually Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I really enjoyed this. I liked it more than the first book, The Way of Kings. The character development is what was huge for me in this book, especially with Kaladin and Shallan. Kaladin, he's like the most honorable character that I've ever read, despite his deep, pervading issues that he just doesn't know how to deal with. This was really great. It was my favorite at the time of the series when I finished it. So when I'm reading a long series like the Stormlight Archive, I like to take little breaks in between each book so I don't overwhelm myself with them. Usually I try to do that with short books. And so after Words of Radiance, I picked up Womb by Duncan Ralston, my very first splatterpunk or extreme horror novel. And so it has a really simple plot where a man named Angel is staying in room 6 at the Lonely Motel, and he orders an obese prostitute to tell extremely dark stories, to almost all of which took place in the same room they're staying in at the motel. If I say anything about why he's telling her these stories, it'll just give too much away. But again, my very first extreme horror novel is short enough to read in one day, which I did. And let me tell you, this is not a story for people with a weak constitution, okay? It is absolutely messed up. Much of it I did find predictable, but it accomplished what I thought it would. It did gross me out because other horror novels don't really horrify me. There are maybe a few scenes here and there in normal horror novels that kind of disturb me, but not to the extent that I thought they would. But this definitely accomplished it for me. But yeah, whether fortunately or unfortunately, it makes me want to read more extreme horror. Then I read Edgedancer to prepare me for Oathbringer. I didn't like this as much as the ones before it. It is a novella. It seems thick, but when you look at the font size and the page size, I read this one day. And even though I read it in one day, like I said, I didn't like it as much as the others. I gave this 4 stars. It follows one of the interlude characters you meet in Words of Radiance, Lift, that little kind of preteen girl. I didn't like it as much because she's not one of my favorite characters. There are times where she makes me laugh, but there are mostly times that I find her really annoying. But nevertheless, I'm glad I read it. It just gives you a fuller character development and some little things in Oathbringer that you understand more. I believe, yes, more things about Oathbringer when they come up. And speaking of Oathbringer, that was the next one I read. Much longer than the 2 novels. This is my favorite of the series so far. I absolutely loved it. Again, it's the character development, especially Dalinar. This is like his book, basically, right? And Dalinar and Shallan, more of Shallan too, who's my favorite character, but definitely all the stuff you get with Dalinar and the continued world building and the building of the hard magic system Sanderson has developed Just my absolute favorite. It took me quite a while to read because it is huge. I think it took me like 12 or 13 days, something like that. But one of my other favorite things about it is how realistically Sanderson tackles depression and grief through Dalinar. Through Dalinar and Kaladin. It was just some things I'm going through myself that I just felt he spoke very realistically of them, and it's just real. So really enjoyed that. I gave it 5 stars. And again, as a break between books in the Stormlight Archive, then I read a little book, Path to Villainy, an NPC Kobold Tale by S.L. Rowan. Again, I'll tag him in the video because I got this off the TikTok shop, which was the very first of anything I bought from the TikTok shop. I impulse bought this so hard because the premise just fascinated me. It's about a kobold NPC, which means non-playable character for you non-gamers, in a fantasy video game who's brutally mistreated by players every day. Every day he wakes up with no memory of what happens to him until one day when he remembers everything he's ever suffered, as well as the heroes responsible, and now there's only one thing he wants: revenge. So this was my very first game lit genre that I've ever read, and I really enjoyed it. It was great. Apparently he has plans of writing this into a fuller novel, so if or when that happens, I'm eager to pick up that copy. Also, this is my first signed copy of a book ever. I really enjoyed this, and if you're a gamer, you like video games, definitely recommend this. Then I read Dawnshard by Brandon Sanderson to prepare me for Rhythm of War, which I'm currently reading, and it was worth it. I've already read some things. I'm on page 250 right now as of this video, and I've already read some things that made them more understandable because of this. But again, just more well-rounded character development. It follows one of the other interludes characters, Rysn, and a few other minor characters like Lopen, who's just hilarious, and one of Navani's Ardents, Rushu. It explores some of the mysteries behind the island Amia, and I like this a lot more than Edge Dancer. So I gave this 5 stars, whereas Edge Dancer I gave 4. And finally, the last book I read in March is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is actually a reread. I first read this way back my sophomore year of high school, which was about 20 years ago. So I figured it was a time to reread this American classic, especially with a more mature mind. Although I kind of enjoyed it back then, I don't think I really gained a full appreciation for the novel. But it's just both. It's very lyrical and precise. It captures both the allure and the vanity of the era, the Roaring *20s. Just Fitzgerald, he just masterfully depicts the tension between new wealth and old aristocracy, and illustrates how entrenched class structures stifle social nobility. It's just a great critique on the social elite, and that's all I'll really say about it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, even though I only give it 4 out of 5 stars. Still a worthy read. Just, again, an American classic. Whether or not you're into fiction as a genre, you should give this a read, because it's just a really great part of American history in the sense of our literature. So yeah, those are the books, the 7 books I read this month. So thanks for watching. Okay, bye.